Hello. See ya, man. What a long, hard day of work. We filmed 2 videos, and I didn't have to write either of them. Now, how are you? You good? I'm hoping so. Today is going to be a day filled with... Has anyone ever done this on this platform before? We're going to be reacting to videos. First off, look, the debate is going to happen in about 2 hours, so we will be privy to that. And in the meantime, there is also some boomer channel that had a swipe at me, so I thought that it would be good to debunk it. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do a lot now, because it's just, there's so many people online now, endlessly taking a swipe. It's almost as if the internet is a cynical, nasty place. In the meantime, though, I think we'll take questions for about 15 minutes while we're just warming up for the chat to go in there. So if you, want to put in a super chat, that would be appreciated. In the meantime, I don't know, no mercy for stooges. That is something that I have said at some point in my life. Very good. Damn, we became a slight commentary channel. Yes, we did. I'll tell you this, it's a hell of a lot easier. Anyone else got anything else to say? We're nice. Why does the audio keep cutting? It doesn't cut, does it? Surely not. It's all fine. Which debate are you talking about? What a noob. Seriously though, you are absolutely entitled to that view, sir. It is pathetic that I know that there is a debate on today, especially because I highly doubt that any of them are going to say anything as controversial as they're eating the dogs. The audio keeps dropping out. I don't know if it does. Oi. Let me know. Can I just say that you're looking particularly handsome tonight? Oh, well, thank you very much. Even though I can't see your face, I'm sure that you're looking very handsome as well. Someone gave me $2 and said poop. Thought-provoking. Thank you. Geordie, thoughts on Toverfield showing 80% of building costs and government regulations? Who's that? See, this is what I'm saying. There are so many commentators these days in Australia. I just don't even know who these people are anymore. It is really freaking me out these days, I've got to say. It's like, it's worse than the mainstream media. Audio is fine. Audio all G. Great. Audio seems fine. Good. Fraudulent Jordan. I don't know what that means. Geordies, when will you admit that savoury is the best flavoured shape? What a shill. Look, if you like the flavour that they had during the Great Depression, that's on you, buddy. I think that you're in a vast minority here. I think we could all agree, surely, that the top 3, and there is no shame in having any of these in your palate repertoire: chicken, pizza, barbecue. That's it. Minnie Eyes writes, what's your favourite food? Can you stop giving me money, Minnie? The answer to that is, God, I don't even know what my favourite food is anymore, because I don't think of food as something to be consumed in pleasure. This is pathetic. I really wish this. If I could just swallow a shot put and that could just digest in my stomach for the rest of my life, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I hate eating. I see it as a waste of time. What have we got here? $10. Hey, Geordies. What I would like to know is, what do you do? Hang on. What I would like to know, why people in safe Labor seats say Labor doesn't do anything for them? Oh, well, you know, it's a safe seat. So they've always got this paranoia in their head that, oh, these other seats get pork barreling and they get all this funding. And look, there is truth to that, especially under a Liberal government. But it's not what they really just, you know, what do you mean nothing is being done for you? Are your schools getting properly funded? Do you have an urgent care clinic getting built into your seat? I don't think that they're sitting there going, well, that vote's in the bag. No urgent care clinic for them. Let's put it in this. Maybe they are. I don't know. But it really doesn't seem like that's the case. If you go look at the federal funding of everything, there's like slight deviations here and there that can usually be argued as pork barreling. I'm sure that it does exist to some degree, but nowhere near to the level that people think it is. Staying up from Canada to watch this, it's already 2 a.m. Never thought I'd be this into Aussie politics until I found your channel. That is very sweet. I did not know that you could be that into Australian politics. I'm not that into Australian politics. God, I wish it could end, but I keep getting Canadian $5. Don't tell me what to do. $5. Okay, Gibbo. Granted. I mean, the price is right. They're eating the dogs. Best thing he's ever said? Best thing he's ever said. No, I think that the greatest quote of Trump of all time, tell me if you've got a better one, but you might even get tired of winning. You're going to say, please, please, Mr. President, it's too much winning. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to win more. What did we get? Another $5. Can you say the word towel? Okay, there you go. That's how I pronounce it, by the way. I hope that you got your $5 worth. We'll talk for another 5 minutes, and then I'm just going to start this boomer rant. And it will be, I'm hoping, quite revealing. Because, look, I had a quick glance of it. It's obviously dumb. This is the thing that, God, there's so many commentators that have risen over the past few years. And I just wish that they could argue something coherently. That would be really good. But none of them can. None of them can. Geordie's Gary Awesome is back. Oh my God. Daddy Awesome knocked me up right now. Yilmaz 2025 win. I don't know that shit. I wish that I could do a Yilmaz 2025, but I can never do that again, because if I did anything about that, I would be lying, and I don't want to lie. I want everybody to... That would be good if we didn't. It's true, Melton City is safe, Labor nothing, Sunbury swings, has time, everything, and I mean everything. I mean, look, maybe. I mean, you're probably just talking about infrastructure projects, right? But infrastructure also means teacher funding. It also means making sure that the council gets the upgrades that it needs. Hang on, mate, not a fan of the Apple cleanser. My skin is effed. I don't know what to do now. Papa Soli. Really? I really like it. Are you sure? Papa Soli, you got to send me a picture. I need to know what that looks like. Sorry to be jeering at your awful, awful complexion. But it would be nice to see that, because I've never had softer skin in my whole life. Did that really not work for you? That's interesting, because it just feels clean to me. Yeah, let me know. Honestly, let me know. I'd like to know more. Hey, Jordan, living in the national stronghold, Nichols electorate, and I'm just wondering what could possibly be done to swing people's vote. Look, as much as I hate them, you've got to give it to the independents in those ones. They're never going to be voting for a Labor candidate. They are going to be voting for someone else that, does that shit. You know what I mean? They're just going to be doing that shit. I don't know, man. Like, I really don't know what to do about that. I think that that's it. What have we got next? Super Bowl collab win. Oh, whenever. Who doesn't like the boys? Maybe I can. Oh, Minnie says to the $10 person, message her and she'll help you out. And she will. She is a skin expert. And in the meantime, we are going to start with whatever the fuck this thing's called. So, just in case you're not aware, and you wouldn't be, but somebody has destroyed me with facts and logic. And as always, we are going to do a snarky internet comment, because I'm pretty sure that everybody enjoys only watching people slam everybody else. And I am perfectly happy to be that extremely sarcastic gladiator for you. And as what the hell is that? I don't know what this... Look, I'll do it again, but Vishnu just says, I was in Perth last week, and all I could think about was a random Australian shit that I learned from your videos. I got a box of shapes. They were great, until we found a rat in it from the house that we were staying at. That sounds like Perth. Oh, obviously, look, Vishnu, thank you so much for adding that to us, because you got the full Australian experience right there. We are, we're quite a lax people, I'll put it that way. Hey, if you didn't want rats, maybe you should have gone to a 5-star hotel. And then only sometimes there will be rats. I was the guy who gave you $3.50 after your Pobart show. What did you spend it on? I enjoyed the show. Thought I'd tip you. That's so nice. Good on you, Duka Duka. I think that I left it in my pocket. And then I think it went through the wash. So that's what it is. It's just clean change now. Thank you very much for the $5. Is your chat more degen than average, or is this the typical Aussie? The number of people moaning that they had to pause their Pornhub marathon for this. Good. Good. Now, anyway. Okay, look. You pause it for a little bit longer. Instead, you are going to watch this extremely unsexy man destroy me. And the reason that he's going to be destroying me is, and I quote from his title, Friendly Geordies get burnt! His recent housing video was an economics train wreck. And that sentence is an English train wreck. Hey, we're both working to our strengths. I'm an arts major, and you're probably not an econ major with your understanding, buddy. But I have only briefly skimmed through it. It is probably a stupid idea to do that. You should probably prepare before you respond to a video. But I really can't be bothered because, like all of these, like, Friendly Geordies debunked, destroyed, demolished, all of those ones, the Ds, the 3 Ds, every single time, they are lame. They are really bad. I honestly wish that there was people that you could have like a serious discussion with in this country, but they just aren't, because they all follow the guidelines of the same think tanks and then sit there and say, he's a Labour shill over and over again. Why? Because I dare talk about what my political allegiances are as opposed to what the rest of them do, which is just say that they don't have any political allegiances and then push you towards a political movement. That's the game every time. Anyway, sorry, that's what I'm predicting. Let's watch this one together. Because I think that's what we're supposed to do on these particular streams. I'm still getting the hang of it after doing it for, I think, a cumulative 30 hours. Probably should have by now. I'd be really good in a real job, wouldn't I? You ready? All right, let's continue.
Well, do we have some good news for you this week, folks. The housing crisis, it's been solved. Yep, none other than Australia's most popular political YouTuber and...
Buddy, before this, were you the guy that used to be on Tonight on Burjo's Catchphrase? He's got that voice that you always hear in Blinky Bill 5:30 shows. It's from another time. And now he's on the internet. Christ. How desperate is commercial television these days that they've lost the stupid voiceover?
Labor Party genius, Friendly Geordies.
Thank you for acknowledging my genius.
Shanks has solved everything. Well, his team of writers and leftist economists from The Guardian and the Australia Institute think they've solved everything anyway.
All right. I'm just going to have to stop you there, buddy. I want to make this very, very clear. I hate the Australia Institute more than you do. I hate them with a passion. Obviously for different reasons that he's going to hate them. He's going to hate them because they're woke shoy boys. And yeah, obviously that is annoying, but it is not the reason that I do. You know why I hate the Australia Institute is because I was duped by them for years. I obviously knew that they had a slant. And see, this is something that I really need to stress to people. Never, ever trust anyone that says things like, I don't have a team, I'm just telling it like it is, I don't pick sides, I just follow the facts, I follow policy, whatever, right? Never, ever, ever trust them. Because everyone has biases. Everyone. And if they aren't aware of their biases, that's so bad. It's awful. Why is that bad? Because, let me explain it to you. Because the thing is, look, if you are so unaware of what your brain is doing that you genuinely don't even know that it has cognitive biases in it like every monkey on earth does, then I don't think that you're qualified enough to be discussing national affairs. I really don't. Because you are not explaining to people, this is the prism that I'm seeing it through. Or you're deluding yourself into like, I'm objective, everyone else is biased, unless they coincidentally have the same opinions as me, then they're biased. And it's also just not truthful. as well. It's not even not that it's not self-aware. It's like, if they are lying and saying, I'm just telling it like it is, just understand that is a paradigm that has been sold to the public as being good. And the reason that that happened is 100 years ago, newspapers realize, oh, if we tell them that we are on the side of the Tories and we say the reason we're on the side of the Tories is because we hate poor people and we think that we're smarter than you and better than you, and maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, depending on the election, who knows? But the point is, it's not a good way to win votes. You just sit there and you pretend that you're this objective overseer, and then people just go with you, don't they? Because it's just the facts. I'm just reporting the facts. It's an old trick, and it has been so conditioned into our heads that we all think that this is the right paradigm to look at things, when it is the most dishonest that you could possibly pick. Having said all that, the reason that I hate the Australia Institute with a passion now is because, and I will be doing a video about this soon, I realised we were looking back at some Parliamentary Budget Office papers that were released, and the Parliamentary Budget Office just tore them to shreds. And it was a paper that I used from the Australia Institute from before, and I realised, okay, they don't just have a slant. You understand? First off, these are the things that you should be looking for in any commentator that you ever look at. Are they able to acknowledge their slant? Number one. Number two, are they being honest? If you start looking at someone and it's just all of a sudden, this is not them looking through a paradigm. No, they are deliberately omitting facts. They are deliberately trying to mislead. They are deliberately lying. At that point, you've just got to move on, don't you? That's a terrible trait. Really, really bad. Because, you know, it's not even just a thing of just like, you know, honesty is a good policy and all. It's got nothing to do with that. It's just they are going to invent reality to get people to go with their agenda, and they know that they're doing it. There is no sincerity to it at all. None. It's quite evil if you think about it. Anyway, the Parliamentary Budget Office papers came out from this. It was about inflation, if you must know. And in the inflation papers, it just basically outlined their idea that this is all corporations' fault is just factually not true. It is not. Inflation is not high because of corporations. It is high because, surprise, surprise, when you are an island, there's very little protection for you. Like in Fiji, when most of the world is interconnected and trade barriers and trade is just being stretched out because of the cost of living crisis after COVID. So that was it. It was just trade was stretched across the world. Supply chains were stressed out. That was because of inflation. That makes a lot of sense because the entire world was going under it. But because it's a familiar narrative of going like, oh, corporations suck, it's always corporations' fault, I just fell for it hook, line, and sinker. And then I just was like, yeah, that sounds right. Like the Australia Institute. Because I was going under the paradigm that they tell the truth. They just have like their little Green's view of the world. And then I started looking into them more and I realized, no, they are a very sinister actor. They don't reveal their funding, ever. The only funding that they did release was in the 90s, and then there was a relative of Murdoch that set them up and saved them. You look into the founders of this institution, really, in its current form, and they are creatures of the Australian Democrats and the Greens, posing, as always, as an independent think tank. It's got a huge political motive towards it, which is, again, where all of this we need independence and a strong crossbench narrative comes from. Like the whole reason our generation has been brainwashed with, how good was the Gillard years? We need independence to hold the majors to account. Oh, the independents are just funded by a bunch of billionaires. Oh, the Greens just secretly hide the corporate money that they get through trust funds. You know, like, this is the institution that came up with that. This is something that I really need to get into everybody's heads, that a think tank is doing your thinking. Sorry, that was a very long rant to start for 22 seconds in, but just so I can clarify, I really want to make this crystal clear. I hate that institution. And no, no, I don't use them anymore. I mean, probably like in the way that I'll use the IPA, yeah? I'll use them, but I will be far more scrutinous of them than I was in the past. And that was on me. After a while, you kind of just get into the whole thing of like, oh yeah, this source is fine, you don't need to check it anymore. But after a while, you just got to be like, okay, they said it, but is it true?
And surprise, surprise, the answer is simple.
Here's a graph comparing prices from 1970 to 2017. You can see that the price of housing started leaving average earnings in the dust around the late 1990s. What was happening in the late 1990s? Oh, that's right. The Liberal government! Look, I'm sorry, I know you're sick of hearing it, but it is factually entirely the Liberal Party's fault.
Great. Now,
I bet he's not going to say anything sarcastic after that. But also, I think the entire point of that video was that the housing crisis is not simple. But if we are going to divvy out the majority of blame, there is an inception to it. I think that was the main point that I was getting at. You know, like at the beginning problem that started the housing crisis is simple. After that, because life, there's a bunch of other complicated avenues to it, but that initial kernel, that is purely because of the capital gains tax cut. I would very much like to see how this guy defends it. I'd be interested because, like always, just like I was admitting before, when I'm wrong, I'm very happy to admit that I'm wrong because, guys, yes, I have a slant, but I like the truth more. Yeah? Sorry, I just want to put this out as well. This is something else. This is something that I will never, ever, ever... No, this is something else that I just realized with like a lot of the commentators that you see now. They're just not intellectually curious people. They're really not. They just want to reinforce a very simple narrative. But like with us, for instance, you don't get into the trouble that we get into if you're reinforcing simple narratives. You get there because you're genuinely curious about how the world works. I think the rest of them are kind of just interested in clout and audience capture and serving that audience. There's one exception to that. I'll give Michael West his dues. Absolutely. That guy, you know, I have disagreements with him and I don't think that he's right on everything, but I think that he is a genuine actor and he is intellectually curious and he is trying to tell his audience sincerely what he thinks. But everyone else that I've seen so far, it's just this guy. Like, he's just going to say, oh, you know, it's not because of Howard. It's because of supply and migrants. And he's just going to regurgitate. You can tell already. It's going to be that line of think tank narrative. Yeah? Because this is something else that you need to understand. Really, in this nation, there are three engine drivers. It is the IPA, it is the Australia Institute, and it is the ACTU. And you can just see that in how people vote, as it's just going into a third, yeah? 1/3 listens to the Australia Institute indirectly. They don't know that they're listening to it. Another third listens to the IPA indirectly. They don't know that they're listening to it. And another third listens to the ACTU, which I would imagine most of those would be pretty aware that they are listening to them because they would be part of unions or have family members that are part of unions. But anyway, I digress.
Now, I'd like to applaud the other side viewer who wrote in the last episode's comments section after we mentioned Jordan Shanks on our last show, friendly Geordies, W2TF, why do I have to see him on this show? Let me be very clear. I'd like nothing more than to completely ignore this guy. He's a comedian that isn't funny, and as a political and economics commentator, he's got one shtick, and that's that everything is the fault of Conservatives and the Liberal Party.
Guys, I've got two shticks. Two. It's not just the Liberal Party. It is also independents and minor parties. I hate them. I think that they are just wolves in sheep's clothing. So I've got two shticks, thank you very much. I'm a double threat.
And a system of socialism controlled by him and 10 of his mates would, you know, fix everything.
What the hell does that mean? What? See, again, guys, I know I'm just going through the Friendly Geordies classics here, but this is the telltale sign that you're listening to a bozo. If they bring up socialism, if they bring up neoliberalism, if they bring up conservatism, left wing, right wing, there is no depth to their understanding of the world. None. It is just going to be an ideological spew of what gives them good vibes. How they have been conditioned by their parents to think this is good and this is bad, depending on how you grew up. If you think that right wing, if your parents, I don't know, like they came up arbitrarily with the word right-wing meaning good in their household, then you will just dismiss everything as a lefty as being like a soitard, an idiot, quite evil, really, doing the dirty work of socialism. But these are all just vibe words. That's it. And if you grew up in a household with hippie parents, you're right wing. This is very right wing. It happens all the time, right? Like, look, anytime I make a criticism of a party, there will be people that will be accusing me of being like, I didn't know that Friendly Jordies was right wing, and I didn't realize you were a soy boy, in the same criticism. It's got nothing to do with what you're discussing. These people can't think that deeply. They just think in these stupid little, like, vibe word paradigms. Sorry. I'm giving this guy a hard time. I kind of like his face. It looks like an elderly baby.
But there's one tiny problem with ignoring this 19-year-old university student trapped in the body of a 35-year-old man with ageless skin and dazzling teeth. He is...
Hey! That was a brilliant call and quite homoerotic. But nonetheless, I'll take it. This sucks being me. I wish I was gay, and then I could, have it with this guy, and that'd be great. Because he's clearly making a pass at me. But it's so annoying. It's just, I'm one of those guys that gays are always like, what are you up to tonight? And just not hanging out with you, buddy. And then my entire life with girls. Get away from me, you awful, awful blockhead. That's what they used to say all the time. His head's too square. Fuck you. It's true, but fuck you. And then every time it's a guy, it's always just like, oh yeah, some handsome guys get all the breaks in life. Why don't you have a vagina? Book ticket to Melbourne shows, but my plans got hijacked. Will there be any more shows? I cannot miss this. Your show's a peak. Every show has been a lifelong memory event. They're such great fun. That is such a nice compliment. And because he gave me that nice compliment, I will be in Melbourne again. You tell Sandy I sent you. Next time, just be like, can I have those tickets for free? It's really nice of you, mate. Thank you. It's just... At least someone thinks I'm funny.
Is massively, massively influential. It's a problem all the geniuses in the Liberal Party would like to ignore and do ignore. In fact, they still think that the old mainstream media is the only media in town. So I'd hate to knock them out of their 20th century PR mindset. They've probably never even heard of Friendly Jordies, but just to fill you in, guys, he's got 1.3 million, with an M, subscribers on YouTube. And within one day after the release of that 20-minute video solving the housing crisis, he'd clocked up 200,000 views.
I would very much like to point out that those numbers sound cool if you say million over and over again, but I'm telling you, man, he was a voiceover for shitty game shows. Listen to that. You've got your chance to win $1 million that no one ever wins because in Australia that would bankrupt this show. So we've made it impossible to get. He's sick. He's really good at that. I wish him all the best. I hope that 6PR in Perth or whatever it's called picks him up so he can do what he's destined to be doing in life, which is announcing, and that was ABBA. Coming up next is the Bee Gees. I wish him all the best. I truly do. But just so he knows, because I don't even think that he's aware of this. Yeah, this isn't his game. But having 200,000 views on something is not that influential. It's really not. The only time that you ever do get influence in this game is just where you just do like, I did this crazy thing and whoa! And then you just get a bunch of people that just stopped watching Mr. Beast videos, and let's be honest, probably still do. I mean, I know I do. But they'll just sit there with their little ADD brains, like, the government, that's corrupt, and then just move on, yeah? Anytime that you are like being influential to those people, yeah, okay, there's 200,000, okay, cool. There's 25 million people. 25 million people in this country. Oh, actually, I think there's more than that. I really should do some research and not shoot from the hip on these things. Nonetheless, I will continue on. This guy and his mates in the Liberal Party, even though he's holding the mantle for conservatism or whatever, but clearly he's trying to get in on that gravy train. They have such a much more extensive network than this. Yeah? All the think tanks, all the media are on their side that collectively would be reaching the entire nation in one form or another every single day. And he's sitting there saying, hey, he's big on YouTube after deliberately stymieing his growth for 10 years, talking about shit that no one really wants to listen to and trying to make that interesting. And it's a very unpopular opinion to begin with, which is that one of the major parties is good and the other one sucks. It's a very hard thing to sell. No one wants to hear that. Everyone either wants to hear that everyone's corrupt or they aren't interested. That seems to be the only two things that people want. And, you know, convincing 200,000 people that maybe, just maybe, people in local council might have a point in charging you council rates. They might be doing something with that. It's not influential. People do watch it, I think, because my videos are sort of just like the Zoolander hypnosis video. But that's about it, you know? Like, you want to talk about influence, your stupid hardheads in the Liberal Party, they've got that covered, don't worry.
That's enough to make Sky News salivate with envy, and they're pretty huge on social media themselves.
Yeah, but, buddy, they're releasing one video every 20 minutes. You want to look at influence just on that. One day, look at the amount of views that I get I think I get like maybe 4 or 5 million a month. Then go look at Sky News's. It's 100 million views. They're not salivating at me. If they had my views, they'd jump out of the News Corp tower. I very much like this comment as well. Influence is a wild word to even use when really all that means is people shitting on the toilet with nothing better to watch in that few minutes. Okay, can I just say, my own audience is better at burning me than this guy so far. This guy has been trying to attack me, but he's just obviously quite a nice guy and reading off a teleprompter. He thinks he's being harsh and taking me down, but he's so far just said that I'm extremely handsome and that I'm a 19-year-old trapped in a 35-year-old's body, which is sort of just undeniable.
Now let me get one thing out of the way right up front. Jordan is younger, better looking, and approximately 25 times more popular than me on YouTube.
Dude, stop making passes to me online. You can go on Jordan Shanks, my self-help channel. We do a bunch of grinder videos there. Just write a message to me and I'll read it out. And who knows? Maybe my fiance will let me swing that way for once. I would for the meme. I would. He wants you so bad.
You could say, I'm just jealous of his youth and success. Well, let me tell you right now, you're absolutely right. But the point is...
Dude, I usually hate it when all these boomers always go like, he's not funny. Because, again, it's just another reflection of your biases in life, yeah? It's just, he said something I agree with. That's hilarious. Yes, yes. Woke. That's all you need to say. Very good. That's usually where they're coming from. But honestly, I just think this guy is a better presenter than me. He is just funnier than me. That was a sick call. I wasn't expecting that. It's called the art of deflection. This guy should be in stand-up. It would be a pretty good stand-up act, wouldn't it? This guy coming up and saying, "Now, as we all know, migration under the Labor Party is up. I'm just going to bring out the chart. I have to be nice. My Sid Heckle. Tickling Pigeon, are you that person? You are too, I remember this. Oh my god, that was such a brutal... You are way better at slaying me than this guy. Way better. It was when I shaved my head for that fish that no one donated to, because then we had to go off air for bloody half the year. But that was incredible. Okay, my head was shaved back. I was paying out the audience. It's usually shooting fish in a barrel. And then she yelled out, "You look like Sid." Son of a bitch. It's really got me. Thank you for your ongoing patronage, though, man. But you really need to stop giving me money. I should be giving you money at this point.
We need to counter his nonsense because it works. And it's influencing way too many people who vote, especially people under 35. But
see, man, I'm really not. Like, collectively, okay, I've got a sizable audience comparatively online to other influencers. Yeah? That's purely because there is nobody in the entire country that is speaking to a third of the population that votes Labor. There is no one talking to the public servants. There's no one talking to the teachers. There's no one talking to the construction workers. No one. No one shares their views. It's all inner city woke bullshit that is pumped out of the Australia Institute that's constantly like, "This is a bit a third way. Like, you guys are both just as bad as each other," which is always just code word for it's not trendy to vote for Liberal anymore, and so I need a new brand to make myself feel morally superior. And I can't vote for Labor because Daddy told me that the unions made us not go to the ski resorts of Sweden one year, right? Like, that's 1/3 of the population now. And then there's the other third that are just what this guy's speaking to, but that's declining less and less. He's not doing the right thing that he should be doing, yeah? He's sitting there and trying to hit me on the whole, you just don't get economics, but what this guy doesn't get is that never really worked for your base, ever. It's just because you had complete control over the papers, so you convinced yourself, yeah, they're voting for us for our economic superior management. They're not. They're just voting for you because they think that you're going to be meaner to Indians. That's it, right? And look, I get it. I totally get it. I hate migration as much as the next man, yeah? But that's just not true on their end. It really isn't. They are the ones that constantly pump up migration. But the thing is, that's what you should be aiming at. I mean, for Christ's sakes, like, he's pulling like a George Bush Jr. dance here. It's the age of Trump, baby. Get on the train.
Even though he isn't under 35. One thing I do like about old friendly Geordies is that he slams the shallowness of the media and he slams the ABC for its insufferable cliche existence almost as much as we do. Like,
dude, we're 3 minutes in and he's just like, here's my utter destruction of friendly Geordies. Compliment after compliment after compliment. Do you have a Grindr account? He's mad. This guy's sick. I'm going to start watching him. His ideas intrigue me and I wish to subscribe to his newsletter because so far he's just been playing to my ego. It's a very weird way to... It's not the way that I normally go, you know. I think we could all tell from my content. It's like, oh yeah, you said one thing that I slightly disagree with. That's it. I'm going to find out who your mum is and take pictures of her naked. Just hold that over you for the rest of your life. And display it to everyone as well. I'll dox your mum, not you.
His takedown of this recent interview with Labor's Housing Minister Claire O'Neill on Triple J's nauseating hack program.
Oh my God.
I got a Mazzato knife and what followed was an absolute fiasco. So I almost made...
Shut up.
These policies, is it to bring down house prices? Is that what the government wants to do?
We want to bring house price growth.
You can always tell who's a Greens voter and who's an independent because they always finish their sentences like this and they always say words like do and really and seriously and starting sentences with imagine being... It's smugness without the intelligence to back it up. Like this guy is a perfect example.
Into something sustainable. So we're not trying to bring down house prices, but we don't want to see some of the growth that we've seen in some parts of the country where you're getting double-digit increases in house prices year on year.
Why don't you want to be seeing house prices drop? Because if you're looking to get into the market, if you're a young person looking at what's ahead of you, you definitely want to see house prices come down.
Well, that may be the view of young people. It's not the view of our government. We want to see sustainable price growth. We want to see more houses come online. We want to see that rental vacancy rate go up a bit because that will relieve pressure on renters. And we certainly want to see more homeowners. And the government has taken action on all of those pieces
But
this
Minister,
week.
if house prices don't come down, doesn't that mean that this system is stacked against young people, that it's just not going to work for them?
Sure. And Dave, we may have a difference of view about this. I have a strong view. Our government's, policies are not going to reduce house prices. We want house prices to grow sustainably.
Well, it's good to see the ABC's kept up with the quota of every white male in the building being a bearded ginger, because that man's certainly not going to get hired as a lifeguard.
Okay, he's right about that. He's also right about some hard.
See, again, this is the whole thing that I really don't like about the whole, you're not funny. It's always, because they always do this. Every boomer always does. And then, as soon as you say something that they agree with, because they always come in being like, he's a soy boy. And then they see that I say edgy shit constantly. And then they go, no, but hang on. I don't agree with this properly funding hospitals nonsense. No, he's a soy boy again. It's just, look, that is always just a tell in my mind, because humor's just a very good expression of someone's soul. And it also shows when people are able to laugh at like a diverse, different perspective of opinions. Yeah. I mean, look, for instance, Trump, funniest man on earth, way better than any comedian on Netflix. Anyone that ever comes up to me and says, Trump's not funny, Trump's very serious fascist. It's like, dude, if you can't acknowledge reality, what's the point of even having a conversation at that point? Now, obviously, I'm not putting myself up to the greatness of Donald Trump. This is not about that. It is more just the idea that, whenever these people are saying something like this, it's more just a reflection of someone said something I agree with. Wow, they're so smart and witty and they have the right answer about everything. And this has nothing to do with my cognitive biases in my head. Someone said something I disagree with. That person is stupid, awful, menace to society, not creative, not funny, first year uni economic. It's so predictable. It's like, guys, I'm just so tired of it. Like, I've been doing it for, 12 years now. It's the same shit over and over again. Am I not talking into the mic? Test. Oh, come on, you could hear me. Mic is fine. Your mic is fine. Video audio is louder than you. Oh, is that all it is? Okay, well, look, I'll turn that down a little bit. But my volume is fine, yeah? Turn up microphone. Okay, it's quite soft. Test. But I don't even know how to turn the microphone up. How do I do that? Test. Can you hear me? Volume is fine. Chat is baiting you. Is that it? It's fine. All good. All right, look, I'm just going to assume that the microphone is fine. Look, man. No one... What I've noticed over the years, something that I can tell you about politics, is it is quite revealing of someone's general mindset. It's sort of just the old self-help adage of is there a closed mindset or an expansive mindset? I don't think it's mutually exclusive that you can have a slant in life and not genuinely be interested in how the world works, how it functions, etc. But then there's just people that, you know, it's like this thing that my mum told me when I was 5. That's reality. And I'm just going to keep reinforcing that until I die. I always just see that as a sign of that. Every time. It's like, you can admit that people that aren't directly following your political line, and this is the worst thing as well, because if I really, really wanted to just build up an internet cult and just reinforce things to people constantly, look, all I would do is just, I would pick whatever impression people have been brought up with since day dot, and then I would just keep regurgitating that every single day. Very low effort shit. I would just keep doing it over and over again. The main things that people are usually always inundated with in our society is always just this endless distrust of government. The government sucks, it's terrible, it's corrupt. And why? It's because corporations just run all the papers in our society. It would be a different thing that people have been drilled into their heads when they grew up in, say, China or something. But in our society, that's how it works, because all of the media in this country is controlled by, like a few barons. And even the state-run media, it's... Look, I could go into the history of the ABC. I won't, just to save time. But you could read Sally Young's paper Emperors about it. That is heavily influenced by the Murdoch press. The contributors that they have on there, most of them are ex-News Corp hacks, just aiming for a nice government job. Most of the stuff that they talk about is just through the narrative of whatever the FX media or the Sydney Morning or the Australian is reporting that day, you know? And so with that, there's two ways that you can go, yeah? There's always the two ways. It's either just, how bad is the Labor Party, generally, or they're both bad. Those are just the two frames that you can get down. And the thing that always angers me when people just talk about, oh, all you do is just talk about how awesome the Labor Party is. It's like, yeah, but when have you ever heard that anywhere else? Ever. You just want someone to keep reinforcing either the Liberals are awesome, or you want both of them are shit. You just want some variation of that drilled into your head endlessly, over and over and over again. And look, I challenge you to go through my record and not tell me that there has been points in my life where I've just gone like, Labor's wrong on this, the Liberals are right on that. You know? That has happened. And usually it has happened in not the narratives that are generally pushed. One, for instance, is, say, donations reform. Yeah? The narrative, the easy narrative. And this is always how you can tell if someone's a con artist or not. I stand by it. If they're sitting there and saying, the independents who have been sitting there and saying that we need transparency in government, in fact, ran on transparency in government and limiting donations to the majors. The majors take so much money from donations. This is an interesting point, by the way. Did you know that the Greens take almost half dark money, untraceable money? But you have all of the crossbench endlessly. The major parties just take all this money. We need to do something about that. We need more transparency in the system. Labor comes along, gives us some of the best laws in the world for transparency. All of a sudden they turn around. This is a duopoly stitch-up. We can't have this anymore. Why is that? Sometimes it's just this simple. It's an old saying from the Clinton tapes, right? It's like, when someone says it's not about the money, it's about the money. You look at how much money these Teals, independents, crossbenchers, the Greens as well, they quietly voted against it after their entire shtick for years being like, we need to stop donations. Then they turn around and at the 11th hour they vote against it. And it makes a lot of sense when you look at the fact that nearly half their money is dark money. And then you look at the independents, and they're getting millions of dollars for their campaigns. Nothing like we've ever seen in Australian history for an individual seat. They're getting flushed with cash. It makes a lot of sense why they're voting against it. It's just different shades of capital influence, you know? Anyway, that's the paradigm that I'm going through it, yeah? But it's very easy to defend that position. It's very easy to defend that position. And why? Because people have been conditioned since birth to have the position of, they're both shit. So you just keep railing that point into people's minds. And now that the Australia Institute does that with a very programmed, well-connected Canberra think tank behind it, that's what people think now. Yeah, look, somebody said they're like, vote one legalized cannabis party. I seriously do think this. This is honestly now my new view. The only independents that are good are the ones that aren't taking money from Climate 200. Climate 200, even when people say, they only take like a portion of their money, all of a sudden donations are really good from billionaires as soon as you talk about your side. As soon as you talk about your side, if you notice this, billionaire donations are fine. So when it comes to the Teals and the Greens and all this, it's totally fine. Labor takes dirty money, the Liberals take dirty money, but when it comes to the independents, they don't take dirty money. They're the good billionaires, or I don't know how they square it in their head. All of a sudden, money is good in politics. Clearly, they just flipped on a dime and started defending keeping money in politics. It was incredible. It was the most hypocritical thing I've ever seen in my life. But my whole point is that you see any commentator sit there and defend the donations reform from the Teals and Independents and Greens angle. That's how you know that they're not a sincere actor. They're always playing the shtick of, I just hold everyone accountable. I call it like it is. They never call out their bullshit, ever. But you'll notice with me, when it comes to whistleblower, when it comes to David McBride, actually the whistleblower legislation that Labor put through was remarkable. Again, no credit for it. And the whole thing is, not all whistleblowers are ones that are trying to fuck with the US government. A lot of whistleblowers are things that just could have stopped stuff like robo-debt from happening. And that we have legislation in place that protects those people now. And they deserve credit for it. But the David McBride thing was fucked up. And I raised a lot of money for it. And I went out and defended him publicly many, many times. I think I've done nothing but more videos on that one subject. Definitely in the last few years, I've done more videos on that than anything else. You know, I will go out and say, they're doing wrong on this angle. They never do. They immediately just went over and completely defended them on donations reform, which was confounding to me because this was the thing they've all been running on for years. And it didn't even put any hypocritical whiff in any of their noses for a second. They just immediately turn on the dime. Why? Because there is money behind that opinion. You are getting propped up. You will get mainstream media attention for it. You don't get mainstream media attention for mine. Why? Because the entire point of Parliament is to try and keep unions out of power. There is only two ways to form government. You either go with capital or organised labour. That's it. And the rest of them are clearly just funded by capital. They just market to different demographics of the population. That's all they're doing.
Truths.
We enjoy complaining about not having a house almost as much as we don't enjoy not having a house. But if you look at the OECD data, housing prices have been going up in basically every OECD nation. In fact, we have it better than a lot of the big boys. Australians pay around 23% of their income towards mortgage or rent, which is high, but it's less than the UK, USA, Canada, New Zealand, Chile, all the Scandinavian countries. Why is it important to put this all in perspective though? Well, it busts a bunch of myths that you'll hear endlessly on TikTok, like, what we need is a vacancy tax. Look, see, the independents opposed the reforms because they massively advantage the majors. That's why both majors voted for it and everyone else voted against it. No, that's the convenient narrative that they sell. And look, right there, what about when the Liberals were voting with the independents to block the legislation? Was the legislation good at that point because both majors weren't supporting it? That's the logic here. It's just like the majors support something, therefore it's bad. But the majors support probably 70% of legislation that goes through. It's pretty unremarkable stuff. That's not true. It's absolutely not true that the reforms massively advantage the the majors. It massively advantage the Greens, if anything. But the whole thing is that these were very sensible. I've done 4 hours on this stuff. This is just not true. They are just saying that as a cover for the fact that they don't want to be separated from their billionaire donors. They honestly think this is how much money they get for their seats. I think Pocock got 1.7 million. There was a bunch of the Teals that got like 2 million. This is unheard of money before. So to them, an $800,000 cap is unimaginable. But then you have other independents like the Centre Alliance Party, but she ran on the ticket for 40 grand and she thinks it's a good idea. Go figure. Why do you think one wants it and the other one doesn't? Multi-party systems are always better than two-party systems. Where's your evidence for that? Are you talking about Europe? What, the ones that constantly have snap elections and governments that fall apart all the time? That's the better model, is it? Hi, I just came in and I don't know if you talked about this, but what do you think about the Australians for Murdoch Royal Commission being handed over to the Australia Institute? Is it a good move? I don't know. I'd have to look into it, honestly. I have no idea. I assume that it's just going to be like what they use everything for, which is just a email shout out that they can just send out. I think that's it. I support transparency, but what we got means that at the next election, a party will have $1 million to spend on a party per electorate and $1 million for a candidate. No, see, the reason that you think that is exactly what I'm talking about now. Is Australia Institute thinking tank talk point. I've read the legislation. That's just not true. Like, they lied about it. This is what I am saying about the Australia Institute. They are dishonest actors. I don't trust anything they say anymore. It's that exact talking point that you're saying right now is a lie. That is not in the legislation at all. It was just they said it, and so the ABC, all of the whinge merchants online, all the independents, the Sydney Morning Herald, they all ran with it. They all ran with it. Multi-party systems can be better if there are enough protections in place. They also allow literal fascist parties to take over. See, this is the whole thing. Multi-party systems are always great until your side doesn't get in. But also, when your side is in, they just bicker and they fall amongst each other and everything falls apart very quickly. Like, everyone always points to the Gillard government as being this triumph. Again, it is an Australia Institute talking point. It wasn't in any way. The carbon tax was the reason that we got a decade of Tory rule. It is the reason we will never have a price on carbon. That's just facts. This is the one that is propped up as being this great thing. They always just say, oh, a bunch of reforms were passed. The major reforms that they're talking about, NDIS and Gonski, all started under the Rudd government. It's just that they take time to get to the point of being legislated. So they just stamp their approval at the end of it. They were there, and then they take credit for it. It's honestly astonishing. It is astonishing that the Greens and a handful of independents still to this day say, we came up with Gonski and the NDIS guys. But the thing is, what happened to that party? Like, yeah, okay, there was Labor in-faction fighting and stuff. But another thing was that government did fall apart. It fell apart. And that was like our one example federally in our time of there being a minority government. They really aren't what they're cracked up to be. It's, again, the Australia Institute wants this narrative put out because their political power comes from the crossbench. Yeah, okay, look, I'll continue on with this.
Park, so there's more houses.
A lot of these countries have more available housing stock than we. See, look, honestly, this is the other thing that's amazing. Is like this guy is just his points just aren't that interesting, are they? They're just kind of funny. We'll continue.
They do.
They're still more expensive.
It's because we don't have enough public housing.
Plenty of these countries have more public and social housing than we do. Still more expensive.
So some of his diagnosis is excellent. I fully agree with that. It's just the solution is, well, it's exactly, and I mean exactly, the Labor Party's plan, which is big government, socialist, interventionist rubbish. It's like...
Can you please name a single point instead of just saying buzzwords? can't keep doing this. I can't. Oh, being a political commentator sucks. Why couldn't I just be one of those guys that's like, I traveled around the world and ate food. Nom, nom, nom. Man. Interventionist, socialist rubbish. Let's talk about what Labor's plan is. Labor's plan, when it comes to building build-to-rent housing, which is absolutely going at the very heart of what the problem is in the rental crisis, yeah? The rental crisis, this is not the same as when it comes to buying a house. Buying a house is not a supply problem. There's an element of supply to it, but it's not a supply problem. The rental crisis is absolutely a supply problem. And if you're building a bunch of build-to-rent apartments, I think it's 200,000 they're putting out, at a discount, the rent is at a discount. That takes pressure off of the rest of the market. That gives more available properties. That's one of the major problems in the rental market at the moment. That solves it. Now, are they building all of these properties exclusively by the government? Like, okay, like, I don't even know what he means by socialist. See, this is the whole thing. I don't know what anyone means by socialist anymore. Everyone has their own stupid little definitions of it. But just as a broad general brush, right? Do you think that a policy that invites superannuation firms, corporations, state governments, the federal government housing body, all of them just bidding for contracts saying, yeah, okay, we'll build these apartments, we can build them for this much, we can build them for that much, here's our plan. You are getting the private sector, you are getting non-government organizations, you are getting government organizations, all bidding for contracts to get us the most amount of houses out there at the cheapest price, most efficiently. Does that really sound like some socialist dystopic nightmare world to you? Does that really ring in anyone's mind as socialism? Any serious thinking person? You know? It's also really dumb because it's just like, what does interventionist even mean? Like, what? Does any serious government just come in and do like, oh no, just like we've got no restrictions at all on anything? No, every policy ever has like an element of intervention to it. When it comes to the HAF, for instance, it's exactly the same thing. It's just, here's a bunch of money, bid for it. What contracts can you give us? Private sector, NGOs, governments. Who can do what? For what price? There you go. There's the money. Go do it. And in all of these things, the government shares equity in it. And then like when they sell the house or from the rent that they're collecting, the government gets a portion. It goes back into that fund so they can build more houses. It is an ever expanding policy. It is a snowball effect. This is addressing the major problems when it comes to social housing and it comes to rent, which is that there are just not enough social houses and there just isn't enough rental properties. These are big initiatives that they're putting out in place. In no way could you imagine them as just being some like communist dictatorship, like takeover of everyone's going to live in Soviet bloc houses. Have you even seen the houses that they're building? They look sick. They look better than my place that I'm at right now. When it comes to reducing the house crisis problem, okay, can anyone just explain to me for a second, how in any way is this, you know, Stalin reborn? How in any way this is Stalin reborn? The major project of the Labor Party is, okay, if you are a struggling person who's a first home buyer trying to get into the market, we'll take on some of your debt from the bank. Some of the debt we'll take on, up to $400,000 of your mortgage. This is an incredible program. Why is that incredible? Because again, the independents and the Greens can sit there and say, like, you're not getting rid of negative gearing and capital gains tax. There's not enough votes in it. They know there's not enough votes in it, but there's enough for them to carve out their little niche so that they can retain their seats. But it's not an actual solution. The Australian public doesn't want it. The Australian public wants to keep their little fiefdoms that Howard set up for them. This is what's so infuriating about these two sides, yeah? They're not interested in solving the housing crisis. One is interested in keeping their seats, and his side is just interested in doing the bidding of property developers. They are not interested in addressing the housing crisis in the real world. These people are just playthings to them. Do you understand how evil that is? Like the Greens just blocking social housing for a year and a half. That is a lot of domestic violence victims and a lot of homeless people that could have been in homes right now. And they're still out on the streets. It's honestly quite sickening to think about. These are the good people in their own minds too. These human beings are just playthings. You understand? For their own benefit. And so when it comes to the housing crisis, there are a bunch of people that are struggling from our generation that want to get into a house. It's really, like, it does. I know because I'm part of this generation. It screws up your entire biological trajectory. You're supposed to be in a house by your early 20s to mid 20s. You're supposed to have kids by your late 20s. You're supposed to then move on, like, I don't know, maybe even get a holiday house, but that's just luxury stuff. But having a house, like, everyone's delaying kids now. That's really bad for the population growth. This is an onset effect of the housing crisis. And because John Howard just made us all so much more selfish, everyone just wants to keep their high value houses. They don't give a fuck. They just care that they've got their little house. They can just hand it on to their kids. Their kids will inherit it. But there's a huge chunk of the population, like myself, there is a reason that I'm a Labor voter. It is because I am from a welfare household. I am from a single disability income household. I understand what it's like when the government is actually in the real world saying, here's a hand. There are many hands that I learned about that if I didn't have those exact hands that were all implemented by the Labor Party, there's no chance that I would be dead. I'd be dead for sure. For sure. There was no Medicare. I was very sick as a child. I'm already gone from that. If there was no such thing as putting out all these pensions and workers' compensation, there's no way we'd be able to afford to eat. You know, these are tangible things in the real world that are helping real human beings. Instead of just this nefarious little argument for all of these like upper middle class bourgeois shitheads online that just see this as some kind of like little point scoring thing that they're just doing online. It's sick. It's really sickening. And so Labor in the real world is like, okay, well, we can't get rid of negative gearing and tax cuts. We tried in 2 elections, but it's a little more important ensuring that Medicare isn't privatized. It's a little more important ensuring that people's rent assistance goes up to match inflation. The people's wages go up to match inflation. We have to get in. We can't just keep sitting there and just being like, oh, we're morally superior because we have the little special secret answer in our head. Oh, we're so much better than everyone. We understand what would fix the situation, but we're never going to get in power. But we feel morally superior about ourselves. They understand that there are real people in the real world that need to buy houses, that need social housing, that need a rental property. And so they're trying to fix that given the hands that we have been dealt as a nation. And so one of those is that when it comes to housing, this is just going to keep everyone happy. People that can't afford mortgages, you now are going to get up to $400,000 off your mortgage. The government takes that in. When you sell your house, they get a share of the profit again. It goes back into the fund. And so someone else can help buy their first house as well. And it's just going to keep snowballing like all these programs do. It just keeps snowballing and snowballing and snowballing. That is a miracle what they have done there. What they have done is kept the boomers happy, and they've also given millennials a leg up. Do you understand? They've artificially deflated the price of housing without actually deflating the price of housing. No credit for it. How the hell in any way is the government just saying, we're going to take a bit of the mortgage off of you? Like, you still have to go into the capitalist nightmare world and like earn it to the point that you can get the house. You still have to go to the evil banks, but you have an option in there in the real world. Another major thing that stops people from buying a house is they just can't afford the deposit. The deposit sometimes is 20%. In my instance, it was way higher than that because I'm me, right? But people just can't afford the deposit. Well, Labor's just announced that they're going to guarantee that you can have a 5% deposit. For a lot of people trying to get into the housing market, that is the biggest hurdle, just getting the deposit. They can afford the loan repayments. They can't afford the deposit. That's done now. That's been handled. How the hell is any of this? It's just stupid. It's really, it's... Oh my God, it's just so infuriating. Just like the only reason that anyone, all these commentators just even talk about the housing crisis, this whinge merchant here, that whinge merchant there, it's purely just, oh yeah, this is online. We're not going to offer any solutions to the people that are watching this because they're watching it because they genuinely need this thing. We're not going to offer them any solutions at all. We're just going to make them feel good given the little political paradigm that they've been raised at. That's what we're going to do. It's like, man, if I thought like that, I just can't, you know? Like, you can just see from my track record, I was willing to risk my life, not even for this country, for this state. Like, I genuinely believe in public service, and just these people don't. It's so disappointing listening to their dumb views over and over again. And I think they know what they're doing.
It's like the Australia Institute wrote the policy, handed it straight to the Guardian and Friendly Geordies for promotion, and bypassed the Labor Party officials altogether.
See, it's just so dumb because it's like the whole modus operandi of the Australia Institute is to not offer solutions. It's to sit there and say, we don't get taxes like Norway does, and then just never actually answer the reason for that. They never, ever give you the answer, ever. They just say, oh, it's both major parties' fault. Why? Because it gives them more little chess pieces in Parliament. They just dangle a key in front of you. You like this idea, don't you? This impossible to attain idea that definitely no one has ever thought of except us. And then exactly the same thing with housing. They're just like, just scrap negative gearing and capital gains tax. And it's like, yeah, but the electorate doesn't want that. The electorate doesn't want it. Sorry, it's like this guy is just conflating me with the rest of them, and I am not. And the reason for it is, even though I am not an independent thinker like the rest of these independent thinkers claim they are, honestly, the reason is because I just think more independently. I just do. Like they do just regurgitate the talking points of think tanks. That's it. I don't. And that's why I'm endlessly copying shit from both sides, because it's just, you're not enforcing the narrative that's in my head. You're a shill and a sellout. So again, it's just long story short, that is not the Australia Institute solution. The solutions that the Labor Party has come with come from like it's a long. This is what is also really annoying about all of this is like people just don't understand how much work goes into a policy. They just think that, oh yeah, okay, the Australia Institute just did a little fucking Facebook post. Yeah, we'll just implement that. That's fine. But the reality is that it goes through a bunch of estimates. It goes through a bunch of hearings over and over. So many hearings, hearing after hearing after hearing after hearing. Like organizations from across the spectrum, from across the world will submit their little 2 cents. And then you sit there and you have to finicky put it together. And then at the end of the day, you put it out. And then the Australia Institute, just with its little media clout, and the IPA with its little media clout, goes like, this isn't exactly what I wanted. It's shit. And they get away with it because no one understands what the government is and how it functions and what it does. Which is yet another reason that the donations reform thing was so annoying, because you had all these people, all the independents, we were consulted over this when they were in the very hearings from the beginning where they were discussing it from the get-go. They were in on it from its inception. And they just lie about it. And they can lie about it because everyone's ignorant about what the government actually does and how it works. So this guy, for instance, it's just like, even if that was true, that like the Australia Institute gave me a piece of paper, which I can guarantee you they absolutely would not. They don't. But like, if the Australia Institute did do that, I can guarantee you right now, the Labor Party is not looking, first off, at like a hostile think tank to them. It's a very hostile think tank to them. Would not be sitting there and going, oh yeah, we're just going to do this. He's just so ignorant about politics. He doesn't even get that the Australia Institute's enemy is the Labor Party. That is their main enemy. That is where they are mostly trying to drag votes from. That and Malcolm Turnbull Wets. Those two things. He just doesn't... Oh my God. That's the other thing that's so... I'm sorry. I really... It's not him. It's not him that I'm angry at. Like, I do like this guy. I want to point that out. It's just... I might as well just be reading an IPA report. You know? It's just the same attack points. There's nothing original coming out of his head. That's what I'm more angry at. There's no original thoughts. There's no gardens of thoughts. There's just wheat fields everywhere I look. Wheat fields of crap.
Probably a good idea, to be honest. Anyway, I'll again applaud Friendly Geordies for his very necessary and valid attacks on the Greens and Teal pretend independence. He also eviscerates their inane and highly politically opportunistic dumb ideas.
You can continue to believe the opportunistic lies of the independents and the Greens. We're just telling you what you want to hear, which is that, yeah, we'll just magically make housing go down, even though there's literally not enough votes in the country to do it, and that'll wipe trillions of dollars of people's investments off the table. But we'll do it, and we'll do it because we'll never have to deliver on it. Or you can get behind the party that is actually trying to address the problem in the real world, who is clearly telling you Plan A isn't going to work. The Greens are just pretending. Christ, this is slimy.
$3 billion to be directly spent on social housing. That's 6 times what the government wanted to spend. And it wouldn't have happened without the Greens there to push them like hell to make it happen.
Honestly, if the Greens were a company, Adam Bean would be in jail for fraud. See this video here? They're lying about even that, but the fact that they go on and on about, yes, $3 billion, so much, and then have the gall to turn around to Labor dropping 10 times that, that's actually not good enough. In fact, not just pretend it sucks, block it.
I cannot wait until we have a Labor-Green coalition government. It's going to be so much fun, isn't it? Labor will have to listen to this clown, Max Chandler Mather, the Greens MP from the inner-city Brisbane seat of Griffith.
80 kilometres south of Karratha at the existing Karratha airport in the Pilbara, Chinese communist-owned companies, with the help of the Labor Party,
Are they
built
using
and
the same
constructed
one?
a private jet airport.
Located close to the coast, approximately.
This is 2016 vintage. Still pumping it, huh? Clive, I gotta say, you're running out of ideas. That was his whole point, wasn't it? I'm spending $80 million to spread ideas. Did you know this Chinese mine has a strip in the middle of the desert? Why would you know about that, Clive? It's definitely got nothing to do with the fact that I get $1 million a day off of this Chinese mine.
Scrap.
All right. Sorry, we will continue on.
Negative gearing and capital gain, so a first home buyer gets a chance.
Ooh, that winning combination of self-absorbed, ignorant, and arrogant. I can see where their vote is concentrated in the inner city.
I've got to agree with him again. Geordie's Labor mates better work out a way to whip the Greens and the Teals into line quick smart, or we're going to have a hell ride for the next 3 years and not.
See, this is the other thing. Like, does he understand what the Greens... Sorry, do I understand what the Greens are? What the Teals are? He doesn't even understand where they're sucking the vote from. It doesn't seem to be, anyway, because why is that up to Labor to get rid of the Teals? That is thoroughly a Liberal problem. It is just the Malcolm Turnbull wets breaking away from the Liberal Party. That's your problem. I would probably suggest starting with not having Peter Dutton as your opposition leader, but given the polling, keep him up. I want him for another term. I really do. I really hope he doesn't lose his seat in Dixon, because if he does, then we will have the greatest genius of all time running the Liberal Party, Angus Taylor. It's a good time to be alive, I'll say that. After 10 years of disappointment, it's very nice to know that it has to be sunny. I'm sorry, but they're just too incompetent. They really are at this moment. But if you had some competent leadership in the Liberal Party, you'd absolutely be able to win those Teal seats back. Most of them, anyway.
Nobody will be able to afford a roof over their heads. Jordan's undergraduate analysis of the problem is half right, but at the end of the...
There's another one. Undergrad. You are an undergrad. I'll tell you what, though. This is just an interesting little tidbit. On my podcast, Friendly Geordies, we've got Miss Love, and he is not into politics at all. He's a muso bum. One day we forced him to go to university. We have this segment called Misadventures, and we forced him to go to university and sit there and listen to lectures. And because he's just been sitting on the Friendly Geordies podcast for so long, the lecturer was up there and he had to correct the lecturer 7 times. This guy is not interested. The joke is he's so disinterested, doesn't absorb anything, that we call him the official political editor of Friendly Geordies, because he didn't know that LNP is the Liberal Party. He thought it was the Labor Party. That's the level of knowledge that he has, yeah? I'm just going to say, buddy, look, not to toot my own horn, but My secondary information going to my bum muso stoner friend is schooling the first year university lecturer, not student. Come on, you've got to toot your own horn on that. You've got to toot your own horn. You have to. It's just such a good accomplishment.
Today, it sounds more like a Labor Party campaign ad than anything else. It's all the Liberal Party's fault, mainly John Howard's fault for halving capital gains tax.
Yes. If you'd like me to clarify on that, and I won't much, but spot on. Thank you. Finally, something true and substantive in this. Yes, that is entirely his fault for halving the capital gains tax. That is the original sin. They knew they were doing it. This is the worst part. This is released cabinet papers. They were warned in Senate estimates that what you are doing is going to cause the nightmare world that millennials face now. And they did it knowing full well. Yes, it is his fault. Now, the housing crisis has evolved and matured over the years, and now there's multiple problems with it. But that is the original sin. Do you have a podcast? Why, yes, I do. Friendly Geordies. Check it out. The podcast. It's probably stupid to name them both the same things. It might have done better if I didn't.
And allowing negative gearing. A deliberate conspiracy to divide Australia, Shanks says, because what would that, I'm not actually sure what that would achieve for the Liberal Party or anyone, frankly, but anyway, that's Labor's, Friendly Geordie's theory.
Buddy, this is the other thing that I really hate about doing these responses to these people, because they don't ever listen to what you're saying. You know, when I respond to someone and I do a takedown video on them, I'm showing you what they say and I'm addressing it. I'm addressing their points. These people don't. They don't show what you say, ever. They never show what you say, or they show a tiny little clip of something that you have said that is going to be controversial without you unpacking it for 6 minutes. Yeah? And they don't show you unpacking it for 6 minutes. They just show, he said this. It's the same tricks. It's so tiring. It's like, that is not what I was saying in that video. I was not saying that the whole point of the Liberal Party is to just divide Australia. And it goes like, yes, and I've defeated him. In my mind, this point that he never said, that is not the point. The point was to make a fiefdom for a generation, yeah? So that they can inherit it with them. And then you make it so that it is so many people are bought into the pyramid scheme that they outnumber the people that aren't bought into the pyramid scheme. I think at the moment it's probably about 2/3 of Australia. And the big reason for that, if you want to know why they really wanted to do that, it is because they hate Labor's greatest accomplishment that it never gets anywhere near the credit that it deserves for, which is superannuation. Superannuation is now what, $6 trillion, I think, or something like that, or 8 trillion, or maybe it's 4, I can't remember. Look, it's a lot of trillions. A lot of trillions of dollars, mostly in the hands of unions, making you better outcomes for your retirement. Immediately takes off a huge swipe of people that need to rely on the pension when they retire. So that's a great thing for the Australian budget. But on top of that is making you have a better pension than you would otherwise. And on top of that, this is big in itself, all of that money is going into funding businesses and infrastructure projects that build the nation. Such a big idea. And it doesn't matter when the Liberals get in and they pork barrel a bunch of things. And it doesn't matter when they cut back budgets on building renewables. None of that seems to matter. Well, it won't matter more in the future. It's becoming less and less relevant because superannuation are now funding these things. They're funding the social housing that is going to get built now that the HAF's in place, yeah? They are going to be building that regardless of whether the Liberal Party's in or not. They are going to be building the affordable homes for the renters, yeah? The builds to rents. They are going to be building all of the solar and wind farms. Things still happen regardless of who's in government. They hate that. This is why John Howard immediately clipped its wings as soon as he got in. It was a little bit too late because superannuation had kind of seeped in because Labor had a good, decent stint to send us up for this thing. But he immediately clipped its wings. And this is the bad thing about it. Like, if you want to look at the ideological riff between the Liberal Party and the Labor Party, not only does it give the unions endless financial power that they never had before. This is the other thing. I hate it when they're always just being like, the unions are shrinking, they have no power anymore. They have a lot of power now. They have finance power. Real power. It's incredible. But here's the other thing. This one really freaks me out. If you instead make people's retirement plan their house, not index funds, building the nation, their house, well, first off, what does that do? That strips away a bunch of money that would be going into superannuation. It makes a bunch of money pool into a completely useless thing that does nothing to build the country, which is just going into someone's house and staying there. That's where all of the wealth just keeps getting locked into this country. It's a really evil thing to do. But it does do one thing that they really want, which is that it makes people more individual. It makes them less collective. It makes them less think about their neighbours, makes them less think about wider society. They just care about paying back their mortgage. And you can even see that in the rift now. You can even see it in the rift between the 66% and the 33% that don't own homes. Because when you try to explain to people that don't own their homes, and yes, I get it, like it's not a fair position to be in, but when you explain to them why it isn't fair, they don't want to listen. They're just like, fuck you, you fucking kind of fucking hate people that don't have their house. And then you look at the people that do have their houses, they're just like, well, fuck them, I've already got it. And like, honestly, if the roles were reversed, you would just have that mindset. So actually, now that I think about it, yes, no, he did make my point. I will actually give him this. Yes, I am saying that Howard was deliberately trying to divide this country. No, I'll go further. Not just divide them, atomize them. Atomize them. That there is no point of you having any communal idea of wider society. That you shouldn't be contributing to something grander than yourself. He wanted to smash those ideas because that is good for... This is why, again, like, don't you think just even the word independent, everyone's just like, independent, like me, I'm independent. It just makes people more narcissistic and selfish. This was in... You always feel better when you listen to me. Fuck, how sad is your life? Thank you, John. Cheers, buddy. Entirely they're doing. They knew those tax loopholes would do this. That's one. They absolutely have no intention at all of doing anything about it. That's two. In fact, their intention is to make it worse. They want you to plunder your superannuation, which is your retirement fund, to further prop up the retirement fund pyramid scheme that the Liberals set up. Let's see what we get. Is it another Clive Palmer ad? Wix? That's not telling me that the Chinese suck.
It's your...
Yeah, because making things worse is a great way to get into and stay in government.
An entire generation of LARPing property investors. They want to keep that LARP going. Of course they do. The Liberals very deliberately set the system up in this way so that baby boomers bought into the pyramid scheme, where now their wealth and their retirement is locked into that very pyramid scheme.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's such a winning strategy to alienate everybody under 40. So no, mate, I don't think that's...
Yeah, no, evidently he's right. That is not a winning strategy. That is why the Liberal Party are making those cringe raps now, because there aren't enough young people that want to go into it. The only people that go into the Liberal Party now that are young, there's no idealists that are going into the Liberal Party. It's just cocksuckers that want to go up the way and get some like real estate connections or whatever. You are not going to have a future party. You can see the Liberal Party breaking apart now. It'll do exactly what it did under the United Australia Party and rebrand with a, but she's got a new hat. And it'll just form again because that's just the cycle. But... yeah, no, it did royally screw them over. It was a winning strategy for about a decade, but you do something that screws over future generations, they're going to be pissed at you.
It's the Liberal Party's strategy for winning somehow. It's a conspiracy.
Yeah, but they don't have a strategy. This is something else that you need to understand about the Liberal Party. Yes, there are some great thinkers in there. John Howard was a true evil genius. Very smart man. Yeah? I did think that Peter Dutton was smarter than he is. And I think maybe... look, he is exactly that photo of him. You could only see his eyes. He is a dark, shadowy figure. He should have never been a front man, ever. I think that he is a smart guy. But, look, they serve capital. That's what they do. They just serve big business. And if you serve big business and you don't think about the community ever, and your entire job is to just stay there and serve capital, at some point, people are going to realise you suck. It's exactly what happened to United Australia. United Australia sold us out to the Japs for their bloody pig iron Bob, and then they used the bullets to shoot back at us. And people were pissed at that. They realized, oh my God, he'll do anything for a buck. And then they had to rebrand as the Liberals, and then that con's been going for a while. And look, now that these guys are saying this, I do think that the big rebranding of the Liberal Party probably will come from the housing crisis. They will have to rechange. They will have to change. Which actually, this guy doesn't realize it, but he is unintentionally insightful.
Theory worthy of a trophy in the shape of a green lizard alien. Maybe we could get one of those for you. Geordies continues to promote Labor's policies of government interventions, all centrally controlled, of course. Policies that at least are honest left-wing policies, I'll give him that, unlike the nonsense that we get from the Teals and Greens. But he heavily downplays the two most obvious and biggest causes.
Hang on. I didn't hear that. One sec. Sorry, I'm going to have to re-listen to that.
So, no, mate, I don't think that's the Liberal Party's strategy for winning somehow. It's a conspiracy theory worthy of a trophy in the shape of a green lizard alien. Maybe we could get one of those for you. Geordies continues to promote Labor's policies of government interventions, all centrally controlled, of course. Policies that at least are honest left-wing policies.
Yeah, see, there we go. Just the same thing. Central control. Left wing, state interventionist. What are they?
I'll give him that. Unlike the nonsense that we get from the Teals and Greens.
Which again, what? What is the nonsense? I don't think this guy knows. I really don't. I'm just going to call his bluff on it. Because if you did, you'd go into it.
But he heavily downplays the two most obvious and biggest causes of the housing crises that don't fit his ideological agenda: immigration and the supply shortage.
Oh my God. I talked about it in that very video. This is incredible. Every single one of these Friendly Geordies debunked videos that has ever come down on me, they just ignore what you say and pretend you didn't say it. I mean, you can definitely see it in their audiences. They're always dead shits. Everyone, all the whinge merchants, they're just like, it doesn't give me good vibes. You can just translate it to that all the time. Like, look at this. We've got our good friend, where is he? I think we saw it before, but like Gary Awesome's in there being like, Friendly Geordies knows nothing. They just never say what you don't know, because the whole thing is, when you go into specifics, when you really talk about trying to address a problem in the real world, most people would probably come to the same consensus and go, yeah, okay, it is the real world. It's not perfect. There is a way forward, and let's do that. You know, like, but these people just always just hide and obfuscate behind a bunch of meaningless words, a bunch of truly, honestly, first-year uni words. Like, if you want to talk about first-year uni, it's nothing but socialism, centrally controlled, Soviet command, neoliberalism. What's the free market? It's just that crap. But then on top of that, it's like, if they don't do that, they just, they can't even listen to what you're saying to the point that they can't address your point. It's like I'm not saying the things that are coming out of my mouth to them, because they just completely change your argument. It's honestly truly astonishing. In that very video, I talked about supply and I talked about migration, and I said that they're contributing factors.
Both caused by too much government intervention. It's Economics 101 that if there isn't a...
I am doing a degree in renewable engineering. Hope to come to Oz when I graduate. I'm hoping FAM passes. What chat's opinion migrants like myself? Oh, you'll get in for sure. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. You will be absolutely fine.
Both caused by too much government intervention. It's...
This is, I don't even know where to begin. Migration and supply have been caused by too much government intervention. What is your evidence for that? I'll give you migration. Fine. Yes, the government does have policies. How dare they? But I don't even know what we're saying is government intervention anymore, because if and this guy is not saying this, by the way, but he's right in the sense that the Howard government, there's really only two ways to grow an economy. You can either make your own people more skilled, or you can just bring in people from overseas to just ever expand the consumer base of people buying petrol and fucking coals. You can do that. And John Howard decided to do that. Why? Precisely because of his property developer mates. Property developers. It was absolutely because they wanted to keep the housing. You can't imagine how ideal the housing market is for property developers. It's almost as if they set the whole thing up. You know? Like, just think about this. This is ideal conditions for a property developer, right? You have a desperate base that is willing to do anything to get a house, anything, has to go into extreme laden amounts of debt, is willing to do it for the rest of their life. And then on top of that, you're endlessly putting more and more pressure on it by chucking more people into it. That's exactly the system that they want set up. You go look at any of these like multiculturalism councils and migration for Australia. You look at any of those and you will always see a bunch of property developers behind it. Property developers love that idea. You've got your Coles, your Woolies, all the service industries. They're always behind pro-migration. And that's why under the Liberals, it doubled. And then they try and bring it back and say, oh, you know, the COVID thing. And like, we've done that to death, surely, at this point. The COVID spike was because there was a backlog under the Howard policies that were set up. There was a backlog of migration coming in all at once. And then they say, look, it just went up under migration. It's all just lies. Like, what's really frustrating about all of these people as well is just by telling people what they want to hear endlessly is always just going to lead to them saying like, oh, this is disappointing. Government doesn't work. And it's entirely their fault. You know, it's entirely their fault that government doesn't work because they show no interest in it whatsoever. They don't want to know what the problem is and how to address it. They don't want to know that. They just want to get this reinforced in their heads over and over again that, you know, supply and migration is because of government control. And it's like, yeah, it is because of government control, but it's from the libs. The Liberals set it up. They did control the government by increasing migration and just keeping it at that standard rate of 200,000. And then when it comes to property council and all that kind of stuff and supply, man, we just know from the stats, there's entire suburbs in Melbourne where 20% of the apartments or housing there is vacant. They are not putting it out for rent. They are not putting it out to sell. They're just holding it because they can treat it like diamonds and make it artificially increase. If you're a developer and you have thousands of apartments and property, that's how you get best bang for buck. You buy up half the suburb and then you take most of the houses off in a desirable suburb. That's what you do. Does this sound like an ecosystem struggling from, government intervention? Yeah, in a way. Yes, like literally all economics. It's such a myth that you just get out of the way and let things happen. Everything is always some kind of state decision behind it. Just organized society collapses without it. It's just like, what are these state decisions benefiting?
It's economics 101 that if there isn't enough of a thing that lots of people want, its price will go up.
That's exactly true. So what do? You withhold it from the market. Duh. It's so simple. Yeah, that is a supply problem. That is absolutely a supply problem. Again, I think it is a completely... because I'm actually nuanced and interested in this. I want to see how these problems can be solved. I'm freely admitting when it comes to rent is very much so a supply problem, entirely. But when it comes to buying houses, they buy houses and then they withhold them from the market. There's also a supply element to it, which is like, look, like what the Albanese government just announced, which is huge. Again, no credit as always. Everybody just shits on them in the paper. You've just got your teal papers saying like, this doesn't do anything to address the housing crisis. And then you've got everybody on the other side, Stalinist interventionism. But the reality is, this is a good damn solution. It's $10 billion aside, 100,000 houses set off for first home buyers. Sounds like market intervention to me. Sounds like the government getting involved. Yeah, they are. They are. But they're also getting involved when it comes to the Liberal Party's policies. Like, dude, what do you think negative gearing is? It's a policy set about by the old school Liberals, the United Australia Party, and they set it about for the same thing. They wanted to gear it for property developers. But that's a government intervention. That's government intervention.
It's also Economics 101 that if the government leaves a market alone and regulates it as lightly as possible, only to deter bad actors and bad...
One second, someone wrote a really good point. If taxpayer subsidies for real estate investors cause the housing crisis, how is more government subsidies going to fix it? Well, look, what you're talking about there is, again, more government intervention. It's just red tape gone mad, isn't it? Yes, it's fueling the problem. But also you have to understand as well that a bunch of regulations and restrictions have also been taken off of property developers, and that is also fueling the housing crisis. And another one is getting rid of all the red tape on real estate agents to the point that they don't even need to fill their bullshit degrees that suck anyway from their TAFEs or whatever. That doesn't really matter. They just go out onto the field, and then they can use any slimy, scummy tactics they like to artificially increase the price of housing even more. This is all a result of, like, look, whether there is policy in place to stop this or not, that is the government making a decision. It's so stupid. I really hate this idea of just let them do whatever they like. That is a government policy.
Add incentives when they absolutely have to, that the market will work out the most efficient way of meeting demand at an affordable price very quickly indeed. For example,
why has the Liberal Party lasted so long compared to the UAP? That's a really good question, Justin, and it really just comes down to, it's the economy. It's Economics 101, stupid. But the problem is, with the UAP, they had to deal with World War II. And they can't, because they're not interested in governing your society at all. You'll notice this about Australia's history, and I did just make a video about this recently, but in New Zealand, I much prefer to have our outcome than theirs. But the powers that be only really allow the Labor government to win every time there is some sort of economic crisis, so that you can actually have a government in place to get you out of the economic crisis. At least we've had that experience. In New Zealand, it seems to be like, oh, we've got an economic crisis, let's put the National Party in. And then the Labor Party gets it in fairly good times. But the thing is, that is a perfect example of what happens when the Liberal Party is in control during a crisis. They get booted out immediately, and it's because... dude, they fucked up massively. They were selling pig iron to the Japanese, and the Japanese invaded us. If your party should never be getting a single seat ever again for that, I don't know what will. I don't know what else. I don't know how you could screw up more than that. Supplying your enemy with weapons to kill you. That's why they went out. Then the Liberal Party came along, and it's just because the world experience has generally been pretty crisis-free since World War II. Yes, we've had economic downturns and whatever, but it's not the Depression. It's not World War II. It's not World War I. And so we've had a pretty damn good time. And because we're slightly more evolved these days, I think that even the slight little pressure of like, it costs money to have a house now, what the hell? That is enough to get them out these days. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is a crisis, but it's not World War II, is it? Due to increased funding of Medicare, Paul Keating has turned into a cyborg. Cyber Keating has gained control of the Labor Party. It is now promising to put consciousness into a hive mind super fund at 21%. Oh my God. What a beautiful world that would be. Can't we all just appreciate and dream? Can't we just dream? Wow, Stu just gave me $30. Thank you so much for that, mate. I really appreciate that. Let's continue on. We've got 3 more minutes.
For example, one thing that would really help the housing supply problem is if small developers...
Sorry.
...out the most efficient way market alone and regulates it as lightly as possible, only to deter bad actors and bad incentives when they absolutely have to, that the market will work out the most efficient way of meeting demand at an affordable price very quickly indeed.
So what you've had for the last 10 years in New South Wales, what you've had with the Liberal Party setting this up, no regulation. Let property developers do whatever the hell they want. Light regulation, as they put it. Let me tell you another thing that's really fucked about New South Wales and the Liberals just being in for so long. First off, they've allowed major corporations like your Mirvacs and your Lendleases to buy up entire suburbs, fill it with houses, and then they do the same thing. Keep it deliberately off the market constantly to just raise the price. That's one thing. But also this no regulation stuff. You know what that's led to? I remember a property developer coming up and showing me, just pointing out to a suburb and saying, they own that building, they own that building, they own that building, they own that building. And how many of them had lights in them. And then he said, I know for a fact that they're like 60% vacant. I know for a fact they're 60% vacant because it's more profitable to just more than double the price of it by just keeping a very desirable area of Sydney depopulated. You can see it when you walk around in the suburb as well. There's just not that many people on the street for how many houses there are. This is letting the market decide for itself. Also on top of that, I think it's something like 80% or 70%, might even be 90%. I'll have to look. This was a long time ago that I was looking at it. But a huge amount of apartments built in the last 10 years, coincidentally when the Liberals were in, are absolute crap. They're falling in on themselves. They were built with material that is inflammable. Flammable. They were built with material that is as flammable as petrol. Because it's cheap. Because they can cut corners, and they do. Another thing that I'm always getting told about as well, private certifiers. You know what a private certifier is? Back in the day, the council or state government, if it was a really big project, would go in and then they'd say, yes, this building is to the standard of what you would want in a first world. Tick, there you go. Out you go. Then the Liberals got in and they did everything as always. Oh, we need to cut red tape. We need to cut red tape. The council isn't efficient enough. Look, there was some merit to that as well, right? Like, when it comes to a granny flat or a veranda, do you really need to go onto the council queue and line up for 6 months to say, yes, this is a certified veranda? Do you really need that? Hang on, I'm just going to check and see if this is still running, my chat, because it always does this. It always just falls off. Does anyone know how to get that back? I just want to see. Hang on, I'm just going to check and see if this is still running, my chat, because it always does this. It always just falls off. Yeah, okay. Geez, look at where I paused that guy. Does anyone know how to get that? I wouldn't want to be him right now. Back? And I should probably pause that. Yeah, but private certifiers started just getting extended out from what they were originally designed for under the previous Labor government, which was small, minor upgrades to people's houses. And then it just started getting moved to, oh yeah, no, you can get it for a house extension and you can get it to build an entire house, a private certifier. And you can get a private certifier to go out and privately certified basically just goes up to casinos now. There's very little points where the government has to go into the building and say, this building is fine. You can just get any shonk you like in the private sector, like they do with consultants, to sit there and go, yeah, it looks all fine to me. Little government oversight. Doesn't have to go through the same checks and balances, just pretends that they went through the same checks and balances. This is another reason why all of the housing is so substandard now. Another reason is that they privatised TAFE, which is letting the free market educate people. Again, is it bad that there are competitors to public TAFE that go out there, and if they can offer a better service, or they can offer a service that the TAFE doesn't do, are they allowed to sell it to people? Sure, why not? But just mean, just it's so mean, just crippling TAFE, the greatest construct that we have ever had to lift people out of poverty, to give them the advantage. This is what you get. These are all just letting the market do what it wants. Again, it's all policy.
For example, one thing that would really help the housing supply problem is if small developers were able to make projects actually affordable again. And it'd be great if councils didn't front-load infrastructure charges for things like roads, water, sewerage and electricity, and then let the utilities companies charge like they paid for the infrastructure themselves later. That's double dipping. Roads, water, sewerage are able to make when they absolutely have to, that the market will work out the most efficient way of meeting demand at an affordable price very quickly indeed. For example, one thing that would really help the housing supply problem is if small developers were able to make projects actually affordable again. And it'd be great if councils didn't front-load infrastructure charges for things like roads, water, sewerage and electricity.
This is his grand solution to a national housing crisis. Bloody council! It's just so boomer, isn't it? The thing that's directly in front of me, that's the problem. What the fuck? I have to pay for water, I have to pay for electricity, I have to pay for these things that you would expect in any developed nation. What the hell? I have to keep for that upkeep. That's red tape. Why can't I just build Indian slums? This is his solutions. Okay. Let's just assume for a second that all of the other macroeconomic problems that he just dismisses and doesn't even address aren't the real issue. That it really is just local council making you pay for water and electricity and road upkeep to your house. Let's just assume that that is the problem. Do you want to live in those houses? What's the point of even building them at that point? Why don't we just go live in caves in the Blue Mountains? It'd probably be built better. The less of a chance of the cave collapsing in on itself.
And then let the utilities companies charge like they paid for the infrastructure themselves later. That's double dipping. Loosening up on the labour costs, green tape.
Someone just said, councils are a major problem though. If the council says that they don't want houses in the area, then no houses will be built in the area. Well, that is something that the Liberal government did address greatly, which was, you know, a lot of it was just loading councils together, and also when you have a building that is of a certain level, then you go to like central planning commissions. This is all New South Wales stuff, so I don't know where you live, but they got rid of a lot of the council red tape when it came to that. Again, for the worse, I think, because now if you want 5,000 apartments with no parks, no car parks, no real thought into how these people are going to fit into that suburb, you can do that now. And it'll all just go to a planning committee that are usually just a bunch of property developers, and they'll just rubber stamp it. I know people from the council that go to these things all the time and just watch in disarray as they go, yeah, Parramatta, 50,000 apartments, jink, done. But yes, that is a problem. That what councils do have still to this day is zoning permits, and then you do get councils that will just say, no, this is not for us. Usually it's bespoke places. Again, this is classic green stuff. This is where the Greens movement really came from, local councils, and it was mostly just about stopping Moreton Bay figs from getting taken down, and no, we don't want any housing here, and a lot of it does just come from the fact that it is the interests of upper middle class people keeping infrastructure to themselves, right? Like, it's usually in the inner city, so there's a lot of public transport, there's a lot of good schools, there's a lot of established restaurants and all of that stuff, and then they usually say like, yeah, just build public housing out in the desert, just go there, you know? So they've got all this social infrastructure that's been built up over the years, and they're protecting it. Yes, that is one thing that local councils have, but his solution here of just getting rid of the council charging you fees for basic services that need to be linked up to your house. I mean, it would reduce the price. That's true. But then the property developer will just front it onto you anyway. But whatever.
Red tape and taxes on materials, they all might help a lot too.
Yeah, see, again, look, you can look this up in your own time, but taxes on materials or the global inflationary problem that we just had, what do you think increased the price of materials more? You can look it up for yourself, but we all know what it was. It was just inflation. That's what happened to it. And I don't even know what taxes he's talking about specifically, because it's just this blanket thing of just get rid of all taxes. Well, there's all types of taxes. Some of them have very specific purposes. Which ones?
Let people build. Support prosperity, support property developers. Instead of treating them like...
The impassioned part of his speech, support property developers. That's the answer to the housing crisis. The cause. Bam! Genius! Oh, man. Look, can we all just appreciate what a genius this man is? Finally, some real answers. Going to the source of the problem and expanding it.
The most evil people on the planet. Have you noticed that we don't have enough property developers actually wanting to build anything right now?
No.
That's because it's too damn expensive and too risky.
Dude, I'm telling you, this guy should be the comedian. He should. You ever notice these days that there's not that many property developers? It's just these sort of truisms that property developers would go to. They'd pay for you, just like, it's true, it's true, it's very funny. It's got nothing to do with the fact that I agree with him. We're having a problem heaps in Flynn electorate. It's impossible to get council approvals to building or renovations. The local government doesn't want people living in this area. Yeah, they do that. There is local councils that do that. But just so you know, there is a vast array of different councils that all have their own little quirks. That was great. This guy's awesome. And also this point, how good is this? The reason we don't have enough houses in this country, guys, he seriously said this, is because we're not nice to property developers. We're not nice to them. If only we were polite. If only we said, thank you so much for building houses for us and doing your job. Like the modern day Anzacs you are, maybe we wouldn't be in this housing crisis. This is his solution. This is his solution. Capital gains tax. Nah, that's got nothing to do with it, mate. First year uni degree. Here's the real economics. Have you ever thought of the word please? It goes a long way. He's a king. I love this guy.
And maybe not letting in the entire population of Darwin and Canberra every year might help slow the demand down a little bit. But George...
Yeah, but buddy, 1, COVID, 2, that was your mates originally. So what are we doing here? You know, I've acknowledged that it's a problem. I've given you the source. You're never going to give a counter.
Geordies won't discuss immigration. He puts it in as one little aspect and supplies one little aspect.
Yeah, that's pretty big when you got 6 paces, buddy. Man, you don't need first year uni. You need like year 6 maths. What's a 6th?
No.
Beats!
For anyone struggling with ear ringing, do not drink water. You may not know this, but the biological reason why some people struggle with ringing, buzzing and swishing sounds known as tinnitus has nothing to do with their ears.
He mocks anyone who raises the actual immigration problem as some sort of stereotypical dumb, racist, deplorable.
Dude, I've done a video calling out your boogeyman, the Australia Institute. I've done in that exact video for that exact reason saying anyone who tells you that anybody who's concerned with migration racist guys is an idiot. I've done an entire video on that. See, again, they don't address you. They just invent you and then they slam that with no facts and logic, with mild compliments and feelings. Geordies, recently I've gotten into knitting but only know how to make scarves. I'm coming to the Brisbane live show. You want a scarf, mate? Can you not give me $100 to ask that? If you give me a scarf, I'm giving you $100. That's way too nice. Oh, now you're going to give me the scarf and I'm going to have to wear it. Ah, crap.
And he sure as heck won't support any policy that might mean someone who wants to actually invest and develop and do something and create and build something gets a leg up, because then...
Oh, so I am not supporting exactly that policy. That is build to rent. That is help to buy. That is the HAF. That is literally the policy. Anyone that wants a leg up into building a house, it's all there. That's the policy. That, in fact, Labor should have just used that as a slogan to sell it to everyone. Anyone who wants a leg up in building a house, come along. The government's open for business. That's what I'm talking about. This is the socialist nightmare that he's talking about. His very solution. This is state overreach. Oh my God. I'm telling you, it's honestly more infuriating that the internet exists now. It is. Because when it was the mainstream media, you could always just dismiss it as, oh, they're just getting paid to say that, and they don't really think this. But now that we are out in the internet age, and now we have all of these different commentators all just regurgitating the same think tank pieces, you realize, no, it's just that we're all idiots. And no one actually is genuinely curious about solutions or how the government functions, which I think is a big part of the problem. The major problem with all of this, and this is another reason why everyone's always saying, oh, you never do support the Labor Party, but I'm out there, I'm simping for the legalized cannabis party all the time. I love those guys. The weed party is sick, and you know why? Immediately when I sat down with Buckingham, one of the very first things he said is, don't you think that most of our problems would be solved if people did civics? Yes. Yes, they would. You would not be able to get away with the predatory tactics that the Greens do of promising things that they can't deliver, like free dental care, like freezing the rent, like, what was the other one that I saw the other day that they were proposing? Yeah, 50-cent public transports. These are all federal issues. If people understood that that was a federal issue and not the state, and then they always revert back to like, yeah, but they're just going to give them funds to the state. And it's like, yeah, well, like, that's not up to them. They can offer the states that, and if the states say no, then that's a broken promise. Like, really, that kind of shit should be classified as false advertising, and you should be dragged in front of the ACCC and then a court for fraud. You know? But you can get away with this, and 15% of the public can vote for that, because no one understands what the government does or how it works. And it's the same thing when it comes to Clive Palmer. How is he able to get in? How is he able to get in? Remember his whole, I'm going to freeze mortgages at 3%. Again, because there's so many durs out there that think that the government freezes mortgages.
They might make a profit. Oh no. They might grow their business. Oh dear, we can't have that. And they might be able to employ more people and build more stuff and actually be productive. Blech. Rich people, yuck.
It's just, it's so dumb. Again, like I know the person that he is fighting exists. I know these people exist because they attack me as well. But this is just what happens when you're genuinely curious about how the world functions and how it's better functioning. Yeah, it's like sometimes privatization is the answer. Sometimes privatization isn't the answer. Sometimes it's good when a company gets a profit. Sometimes it's just essentially money laundering, or it's them just hiring out to do useless things that don't grow the economy at all. Sometimes it's really good when they get a profit. It's just, these people have no space for grey areas because they have no grey matter. None. All of these commentators that I've seen. I'm telling you now, I'll give you the list of ones that I like, that I've seen, that I thought, that is a genuine actor. That person genuinely believes what they think. You don't have to agree with them, but I think that they aren't just like playing the algorithm or preaching to the converted or talking to an audience or just marketing their message to hit as many people as possible. It's Michael West. That's it. That's the only ones that I've seen. The Independent Australia. Independent Australia that I always mix up with the Australia Institute. It's similar. Independent Australia, I think, is the same thing. I don't think that they pander to audiences. I know that Independent Australia doesn't pander to audiences because they were out there while the brainwashing for years was that the ABC is awesome. Now everyone thinks the ABC is shit, and I played no small part in that. But, you know, no. It's not true. And they were out there fighting it for years, even though it wasn't popular opinion. It's just like, down the line, you can see it. Say you're writing for Crikey or something, you're just always talking about how the ABC is a really important bulwark to stop the Murdoch press. And then you go over to the Murdoch press and it's like, woke leftists in the ABC ruining this institution that 80% gets its talking points from Ash. And then you've got someone out there saying, no, the ABC is shit. But it's not good or bad for the reasons that these people are saying. And, you know, that's the only time that I ever think this person actually cares. Yeah? It's when they are... Like, Michael West will go out against a corporation that no one gives a shit about. He's not doing it for clout. He's definitely not doing it for clout. And he will get sued for very dangerous stuff that he's saying about it. I mean, I think I've earned my stripes in that regard. And Independent Australia, they are going against what would have been very easy for them to grow their audience, which is, oh, poor auntie. And why do people think this about Auntie? Because Auntie has been sitting there for 70 fucking years brainwashing you about how awesome Auntie is. It is a broadcaster. You know, it gets to broadcast its thoughts into your head. But, again, how many other people can sit there and say the ABC sucks and the Murdoch press sucks? Right? It just wasn't an opinion until I came around. Admittedly, Independent Australia was out there doing it, but they were doing it in the bad old days of the internet before there was video. No one thought that before.
That'd be just horrible for Labor and the unions.
Oh, he's got us! He's got us! And right in time for the debate as well. So we are going to pause this because I think that was just... It's not going to get better than that because that was the true meeting of the minds. A man that, as he said, is a 19-year-old trapped in a 35-year-old's body. And me, I think, going up against a property council teleprompter AI bot. Is he a real man? To be seen. To be seen. All right, we're going on a small break.